I feel like that's you on the bass.
I could do the bass. Stand up.
Yeah. I feel like you could handle that. I feel like you were playing the bass last night.
We didn't get there last night. We apologize to everybody. We tried. We got hung up in Gainesville with the great Urban Meyer. We had quite an evening, and we just didn't get back in time to get the show launched. We apologize, folks. I think that's the first show I've missed in 5 years. First show you've missed in 5 years.
5 years, yes. I don't know about that.
I know about it. That's all that matters.
Well, all right, we'll have to check the archives on that.
No, we don't have to. Name on the show.
We'll go. Well, it's not important, but it's important that you're on with us tonight, and that we had a good night last night at the it's the Touchdown Club, the Gainesville Quarterback Club.
Yeah.
Right, the oldest booster club in Gainesville for Florida Gator athletics. How many people? 200, 300?
250. Let's go get Allie and talk to her about it. She likes Urban Meyer. Her son. It's like her son. Her husband, Eric, played for Urban.
Well, we'll talk to Allie in a minute. We'll talk to David Moulton in a little while. We'll talk all about this coming game in Kentucky. And there's lots to talk about, especially with last night, which was really a neat thing. And we'll tell you all about it right after we say hello.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ? I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Me on the bass too, by the way.
You play the bass. No, I'm learning. I'm learning so many new things about you, Allie. Do you play an instrument?
I do not. I'm not musically inclined at all.
Anybody in your family play an instrument?
Eric,
a musician.
Eric can play a few different instruments. I don't know. I want to say like the French horn, the guitar.
Really?
Play a few different random things from the life before he met me, but I am not musically inclined at all. And
those punters are creative people. I know that.
That's right.
Yeah, he is. He's very creative.
Can I just
bust out the French horn like at Christmas time?
Thing tonight, just one thing. I'm gonna say this, sexist so it may sound. All right, I'm gonna say it.
Oh boy,
it's okay. I'm an old man. I can say this. I think Allie looks very nice tonight. Okay, I know that's wrong in some quarters to say that. I'm sorry. I just want to say you look very nice.
Very much. I appreciate it.
And I'm thinking about maybe actually dropping Laura Rutledge as our sweetheart of Gator Bait. That's all I'm gonna say. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
See, I'm gonna say hi, Allie. Welcome to the show.
Oh, Mr. Proper, let go. You go right ahead.
I think Allie's very capable because we have lots of good things to talk about.
Let's talk sports.
Yeah, I was wanting to get right off the bat. I wanted to discuss some of the recruiting information out there. It seems that there is a lot of rumblings about 2025. First is the first signee that of 2025 that committed.
The first commitment, yes.
Yeah.
Running back out of Plant High School. That was our our first commitment so far. He's, his name's Waltrez Clark. He's a 4-star. He's really good. He'll have the opportunity potentially to move into a 5-star role, or 5-star ranking, excuse me, as his season progresses into this year and summer camps next year, because obviously we've got a long way to go for 2025. But there's always, I don't want to say always, for the last 2 decades, probably, there has been this rumor in Tampa that Plant doesn't like to send Gator players to Florida. It's not true at all. I've known, people on their coaching staff over the last 2 decades, but that's the pervasive rumor, is that Plant kids don't sign with Florida. So that's kind of great for the first commitment out of the class for Napier to be from Plant, because that does, that kind of dispels that myth a little bit.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what kind of player we should expect. Some people, not, I guess, a little surprised that it was a running back, but happily surprised it seemed to be that was the focus early on in the recruiting, especially for the first one off the bat. So talk to me about the importance of that for 2025 to add as the first signee.
Well, I think Napier makes it very clear that he wants a lot of backs, right? He wants that running back room full at all times. We don't know who out of our room will be coming back or not. Johnson will, potentially test the NFL waters. We don't know if Cam Carroll will come back after that injury at all, or for next year, or if he's going to just be done. We know Etienne will have one more year, but there's gonna be some spots in that room. And so they want to make sure they shore it up. That's kind of the basis of Napier's offense. He's 60-40, favoring the run game. So it was kind of a no-brainer. I don't know that I think there's any significance to him being the first based on position, if that makes sense. But you're getting a pretty bruising back. He's about 200 pounds. He's 6'1", and he's 16 at this point. So he'll continue, obviously, to put weight on. He's the number 7 running back in the country, according to 24/7 Sports. And he's got offers from, all the big guys: Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Boston College, they're Clemson. There's just lots of places and people that are interested in him. So, if you think that that's what you need to shore up that room, go ahead and accept that offer, get it out of the way, get him in the class. There's other kids in Tampa that the Gators will want, so it could go a long way in, bringing his friends. So, I think it was a good move, and it was exciting for that to happen after Tennessee. It's always nice when you have that emotional win and then you get something, kind of long-term out of it, which they did.
Yeah, I'm showing the screen right now on GatorBait. Just the other confirmed visitors this past weekend. Just a long list,
Really long list.
of 4-star athletes, but a pretty awesome looking list. I think only 1 3-star, and the rest were 4 and 5s. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 visits.
Yeah.
Over the weekend. So Billy capitalizing on all that momentum. You can check that out on GatorBaitMedia.com, or you can go to Allie's channel, which she's always on top of that. Allie, where do they find you on YouTube, by the way?
You can go to A Peek Inside Gators Football on YouTube, and you'll be able to, see some recruiting updates and stuff like that. But yeah, it was a huge list for Charlotte. There was a lot of big names in the house, a lot of names from guys committed other places, which is interesting too. Charles Lester, he's committed to Florida State. Jeremiah Smith, which I don't think is shocking to Gator fans that he ends up on our sidelines because he has a lot. But Dallas Wilson, he was a 4-star wide receiver, that was committed to Oregon. So, that was interesting. There was a pair of Texas commits that were on the sideline. So, Napier's working, right? They will probably take, 3 to 5 more guys in this class. Probably, I would say 4 is a safe estimate here, and they want the best. And so at this point, they're swinging for the fences because their class is good enough that they can, they can take some risks. And even if they strike out, it's okay because they've built such a solid class already. I wish the offense had put on a little bit more of a show for some of the people that were in the stands. I don't know that, you did yourself a whole lot of favors with Jeremiah Smith when you see Florida settle for 5 field goals, but it is what it is. It's a W.
I think you probably also, I think, I don't know exactly what they were talking about, but there was talk about how so and so could see themselves fitting in really well. And I think there was a lot that's what you get with what the bad good win, good bad win,
Mhm.
whatever it is. But hey, like there's a lot of potential there, and I can play, right? I mean,
Yeah.
or maybe play as a
Well,
young
and
star.
that's the thing is that if you are, if you're clicking on all cylinders, all the people that you are playing are just out of this world, all Americans, whatever, it is hard to see early playing time for young guys. You can't sell that. You can sell development, you can sell getting you into the NFL, but you can't sell that early playing time that guys really do want. Florida has the luxury of being able to say, hey, look at all of the young guys we have on the field at this moment. This could be you. There's room for opportunities. For somebody like Jeremiah Smith, I think that you can say, like, hey, look, clearly our offense could use you. You'd play right away. Come on. For me, I think that, when there's no deep balls, when you're not as creative, and listen, Napier is capable of being creative. He just wasn't particularly creative on Saturday. But I also don't think one game is determining whether or not a recruit comes to you or not. You want to continue to get them onto campus, but there's room for people to come and make an impact immediately. And Napier has shown that he's willing to play the young guys over the older guys.
Yeah, I think that's evident. All this last game with 3 offensive linemen. Now, I think we can digress a little bit about what happened last week, what went well last week. First of all, we've discussed that field goal kicking, although it's not the most sexiest way to win a game, you do, it's being married to obviously someone who's a punter and has the experience on the special teams, but you understand the confidence of a kicker is very important. That could pay dividends down the road. And the close game, as we all know, especially what did he end up with, a 54-yarder?
4 yards.
Yeah.
5 for 5, hit his extra point. I mean,
Yeah.
and those are huge positives. It's not a sexy win,
No.
so to speak, but
Right.
a win is a win. First of all, it's Florida's 3-1, but finding that field goal kicker is probably the most important thing that happened on Saturday. Smack is good, right? And they gave him some confidence, like getting 5 field goals. Sometimes it takes, 6 or 7 games into the season before you've kicked 5 field goals if you're a field goal kicker. So there's some confidence that came from that. And more than likely, there will come a time where your field goal kicker will make or break a game, even if it's not as time expires field goal kicking. If there's an opportunity in that game and you win or lose by 3 or less points, that's it right there. And so having the confidence in our kickers, his kickoffs were really good too, which I think is something that maybe we don't spend enough time talking about. And also punting was great. And Crawshaw has been consistently good during his time at UF, but he has not been good so far this season. But he was solid. He had a 49-yard average on Saturday, and that's going to play a role at some point in the season as well. So seeing him getting back in his groove was another win for Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. And the special teams seem to have righted themselves at least last game. I know there was a lot of controversy about the 10 guys on the field and
different times, but
yeah. But I think we'll hear from David Moulton here a little while. I think I learned my lesson a little bit from getting to on this team in Salt Lake, and David was the first guy that said, really, I don't think this was a bad, a loss. And, it was 2 weeks ago or a week ago that we discussed a lot of the different, or I guess 2 weeks ago, discussed a lot of the different nuances of the thing. A buddy's waving his hand, I don't think, I feel David was really the first one to come out and say, this guy's not following. No, you have no comment, buddy?
I didn't know I was asked. I was sort of waiting for my opportunity. I had a couple of things I wanted to ask, but I don't want to interrupt a good conversation. So,
well, your name's on the show. Your name's on the show.
I want to make sure that this is working. I didn't know, but anyway.
Oh boy, here we go.
A couple of questions I would like to ask, but whenever you're done, let me know.
Hey, you jump right in there, pal. It's your name on the show. That's all. Okay. It's all good.
All right. Well, I wanted to ask Allie and all that's good stuff about recruiting. I'm not your recruiting guy, so I take Allie's word for it. But I want to talk about a couple of points, like Kamari Wilson right now. That's a sore subject. Yeah. And you mentioned they're playing younger guys. I got this stat. I forgot who. Somebody wrote it on the internet. 12 of the 21 freshmen have played in all 4 games. Yeah. They're going young.
They are.
Some of the guys like Kamari Wilson, 5-star from IMG, think, hey, I'm the dog here. How about me? Well, guess what? The young guys are playing great.
Yeah. So, the Kamari Wilson situation is a little bit of an odd one, but it's one that we kind of heard some rumblings about over the summer. Over the summer, I heard that Florida wants him to move to linebacker. They think that that's a position that he is better built for. He's not your, 4-4 speedster. He is on the bigger end. They want him to play linebacker. He does not want to play linebacker. What I have been told, and this is definitely not official, so nobody quote me, but what I've been told is that he has asked to redshirt and he wants to enter into the transfer portal. So I think what I can gather from what happened on Saturday is that, first of all, he showed up halfway through the second quarter and walked on the field, which is weird as well, because it's not like you came in with the team, warmed up, any of that stuff. But I think he thought that he could just tell them, hey, I want to be out. Give me my red shirt, release me. But by the way, I still want to hang out. And I can see why, as a coach, you don't want somebody who's already decided that they're done with your team to then hang out with your team on the sidelines. That can't be good for the culture of your program. If he thinks that maybe his time at Florida is savable and he wants to work on it, game day is probably not the day to have that conversation, and I'm sure more to the story in the background. And I think that, and yes, hate it that Kamari was the first big recruit to come to Florida, but it seems like it's not being handled well. I didn't love Napier's answer in the press conference. And Buddy, you probably had the same thought I did when you heard it. Billy's entitled to do whatever he wants with his players. And I completely trust his judgment on Kamari not being there. I think I would have loved for him to have said something like, guys, I'd like to talk about the players that did play today. And just,
that's good. I agree with that.
Yeah. Instead, he said he wasn't on the 80. We're only allowed to travel 80. Well, it's non-conference game. That's not true. Yeah. So instead, he stood up there and said a falsehood that nobody called him on, which I also thought was weird. But instead of just saying, hey, I want to discuss the guys that made a positive impact today. I get he's not going to stand up there and throw his player under the bus. And I don't suggest that he does. But I would love it if he didn't say what he said either.
We need to get you in this press conference to toughen up some of the questions. And I know how hard it is, because sometimes you can't even get a question in.
Yeah.
So, and Billy's made a few oopsies. We'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to get to the merch thing right now.
Okay.
Scott Carter wrote this. I thought it was really good. Mertz enters Saturday's game at undefeated Kentucky, completing 77.8% of his passes, which leads the SEC and ranks 5th nationally. Mertz was 20-23 for 259 yards and a touchdown in last week's victory over Sharp. Now, a lot of people owe Graham Mertz an apology. He's not only playing he's playing exceptionally well. He's now among the best quarterbacks in the SEC, if not the country. And I think what we all know is he hadn't even hit his stride yet. Wait till these young receivers like Aiden Mizell and Andy Jean start kicking in, even with Trey Wilson being hurt. I think I wrote this past week. I'm confident enough now that if Graham Mertz has to make a throw to win the game over Kentucky, he can do that.
Yeah.
Don't you feel that way?
I do. I mean, Graham Mertz, I think everybody owes Graham Mertz an apology. Maybe not anybody on this show, because we were really hopeful and excited for what he could bring to the table. But I think the national media absolutely kind of owes him an apology. He has his ceiling is not that of Anthony Richardson, but his floor has been so much higher. He has been in control of his emotions. He has not made poor decisions. He has made well-timed throws. He's made adjustments when he needed to. He's shown us how tough he was. I made the comment, I wish he didn't have to show us how tough he was against Charlotte, but he did. And he just stands there and takes it. I think he's been a leader. I think you can tell that this team follows him and believes in him. And, this is going really well from that aspect. And the hope is that he comes back for one more year and this continues, and DJ Lagway can kind of learn underneath him, get to know the system, not start as an SEC freshman against that gauntlet of a schedule next year. I mean, I think high praise for Graham Mertz. I don't know that we could ask for much more out of him.
I agree 100%. I do. Yeah. So I don't know, Brendan, come in here. Let's talk about the games this week. South Carolina, Tennessee. I don't see South Carolina winning that game. They got some problems at quarterback Tennessee that he will play, but he's been injured. Texas A&M and Arkansas. I know you like the LSU at Ole Miss. That's going to be Lane Kiffin can be finished off by the weekend. Done.
Yeah.
I mean, his bomb, the egg he laid against Alabama. Alabama now playing better at Mississippi State, no problem. Missouri, Vanderbilt. Florida at Kentucky is the premier game of the week. This game is going to have, think about this. If Florida beats Kentucky, they're in control of the East, suddenly with a chance to go into Georgia's 6-1. Allie, that's way ahead of schedule.
I mean, and obviously after you get past Kentucky, you have to get past Vanderbilt. You know, there's more games down the road. Got to get past South Carolina. But I will be so impressed if this team is 2-0 in the East on Saturday afternoon. You know, I think it is ahead of schedule, but you have to beat these teams that you are supposed to beat. And Kentucky is a team that you are supposed to beat. Take away the last 3 years, Florida won 31 in a row. This is not supposed to be a rivalry game. Florida is on paper the more talented team. This game is at noon, so the stadium shouldn't really be a huge factor. This is a game the Gators need to win. And when and if they do, I think we can really say like, okay, we are trending in the right direction. But the fact that 6-1 is a possibility going into Georgia, which to be fair, we did talk about this summer and say that like if things went the right way, we thought that was a possibility. I mean, that means they will have already beaten their Vegas wins total odds, and we're only, a little over halfway through the season.
Yeah.
I do think that this is ahead of schedule. I do think there's progress. I just think it's really important to remember that progress is very rarely linear.
And slow. They're slow. And by the way, Brendan, you made a statement last night I agree with totally. You said it's good they haven't peaked too soon. If they beat Kentucky and now get their jam going again, this season has possibilities to do beyond what we expected, Brendan.
Well, that was just our conversation last night going up. I said, it's always in college football, if you're going to lose early. And sometimes you want these things to work on because it keeps the guys engaged with learning and getting better, I think. And if you roll out like you did at Utah last year, you win this big game up front, then there's a lot of pressure early. You sort of play that you should win game, and then you start listening to the polls and people like us who tell you, you're better than you are. And next year you're 16, 15 in the top 25 and you don't really belong there. And I think that sort of can be a lot of pressure. This game, if Billy and coaching staff does utilize this win, and I think Billy alluded to it in his press conference. I know he did. He says, well, there's lots to work on versus, coming out of the McNeese game where you think, like Billy said, well, I'm concerned about everyone's attitude, and Tennessee, I'm concerned about everyone's attitude that they think we're better than we really are.
Teaching moments. You need teaching moments. And Allie, remember when your husband had a teaching moment about the Champions Club?
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell that story again.
The first time that there was Champions Club was summer A of the summer in between Eric's sophomore and junior year. And he had just had MCL surgery. So he was in the pit, working out, which disqualified you because you weren't practicing. So he didn't make Champions Club that semester, that summer A. He never missed one again. They eventually amended the rules so that it, helped the injured a little bit. But I totally also get the very first time you do it being a complete stickler for it because you're trying to make an impact and make a point. But
Allie, he walked in to sit down to get his steak, and what happened?
And he had to go sit at the table and eat burned hot dogs because that's where if you didn't hit there was very specific guidelines for what you needed to do, and not missing a practice was one of them. And there wasn't like, you don't have to miss, you can miss a practice if you're doing XYZ. It was period. You don't miss a practice. That was the guideline. But I do, think that there's lessons in defeat. There's lessons in winning ugly. There's lessons in victory. This team was really young, and that's kind of the risk you run, is that you get that big emotional win, which Tennessee was, and then you're like, oh man, we are good. Look at us. And you start to listen to the outside noise saying, hey, this Florida team's better than we thought. Hey, they're ahead of schedule. Hey, maybe Napier was right when he said they're light years ahead. And then that kind of gets into your head. And so then you think, okay, well, I'm not going to practice as hard. I'm already good. Or I don't, and I think that's what we saw. And we're lucky that Charlotte was the game after Tennessee because we could have a crappy week at practice and not play particularly well and still win. Had we had Kentucky the next week, we could have been in trouble. But I think it was a good reality check. The same way Utah was a good reality check before Tennessee. We were like, shoot, we suck. Are we going to find any victories on this schedule? And they really rallied and got that Tennessee victory. I think that we'll see that against Kentucky. I think Florida had a good week of practice so far. I think we'll pull out a victory. It might not be pretty. But that's okay. We're at the win ugly stage of the rebuild.
Yeah.
You win ugly, that's okay.
Yeah, we had the pleasure of listening to Brandon Spikes and Urban Meyer talk last night at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. And Spikes was interesting how you really got the sense of when you hear these, just really nice way, by the way, fantastic job by them where Urban came in and said, I don't want one coach to sit up here and just jabber and talk away. Let's sit down and have a panel. So it was Brandon Spikes and Urban and a lot of questions came in and it was interesting to see how Spikes is part of that motivation and how you can see how he makes the difference, especially, before Tennessee, he was talking about all week saying, beat Tennessee. And a lot of he's saying a lot of the good things, which is, I don't really pay attention as much to the score or to what's happening, but he really is bought in on, I'm making a difference in these guys' lives and working on their game to becoming better and elite athletes. So I just thought, well, what a good thing or a good kind of person to be in there, especially a la post Swamp Kings, to have this sort of figurehead now, right? Yeah, they talk about No Sean and the hit and all of these things, but this guy's been there and you've seen it, and now you sort of have someone to sort of look up to. I thought, wow, what a powerful thing to have in that locker room, especially for these rival games, especially when you've got to go on the road to Lexington and make this win.
Well, you don't know till you know, right? And so having somebody that can tell you what this means, what the history is, that actually was there, I think that that's invaluable. I saw Spikes on the field after the Tennessee game and talked to him for a minute, and this is what he said. He was like, Allie, they listened to me. Like he feels like he's making a difference, which I think is really neat. And he was like, man, we could have beaten them by way more. He's so excited to be doing that. And that is kind of a neat thing to see as well. But he is making a difference. And this team, particularly on defense, is chugging along. It's not pretty. It's not linear, but there is improvement.
What I liked about it was he talked about when he talked to his linebackers and said, guys, you're playing linebacker at University of Florida. You're like quarterbacks. You have to lead. You got to be vocal. He's got those two linebackers, middle linebackers, playing really good right now. In fact, all the linebackers are playing well.
Yeah.
And I think Spikes' experience, I think Swamp Kings helped him. His credibility, because, oh, wait, this dude's pretty important. So
these kids were young and they didn't live any of this. They don't remember and I think also in Swamp Kings that he himself didn't work hard at the beginning, and you see kind of the evolution of Brandon Spikes, which my brother played with him, but my brother was younger than Spikes, and he was like, man, Spikes was always the hardest worker when I was on the team. I had no idea that he didn't just come in that way. I think that gives credibility with the young guys too.
Yeah. Okay, let me do this real fast before we lose Allie. I want to tell folks, thank the sponsors at Titan MRI. Remember, Titan MRI is worth a short drive to Gainesville. No insurance, no problem. You can pay with cash or card with same-day scheduling available. You can start feeling better today because Titan MRI is North Central Florida's premier independent MRI facility. Come see why hundreds of patients are visiting our Gainesville location from Ocala, Marion County, the villages, and all points northeast, south, and west. That's TitanMRI.com. Allie Peak. David Moulton needs a link, Brendan, he says.
We'll send him one.
Yeah. So, Allie, I'm kind of, I wrote about the feeling that you get about teams. I'm a kind of a feeling guy when I think about the team. I know that I don't do analytics that much. I know those are important. I talked about the time when I had this unbelievable wisdom when I once picked Florida State and Florida, walking out my door, and I said, I don't know who's going to win this game. It might be a tie. Guess what? It was a choking thing, 31-31. Yes, that was pure luck. But I'm still thinking that I think you share this, that there's something going on with his team right now, which could bubble up or might not. But if they win this game Saturday, it's a whole new season, Allie.
Yeah, I mean, I think win or lose, the season is not lost. But if you beat Kentucky, you are 2-0 in the SEC East. You are 4-1 on the season. I really think you are doing incredibly well. I think this locker room is bought in. I think these players care about each other. I think that the culture that Billy Napier has built and is continuing to build is really good in Gainesville. This foundation is made out of cement. This is moving in the right direction. But a win against Kentucky is important, would be great. You beat the teams you need to beat. If Florida doesn't beat Georgia, that's okay. If Florida doesn't beat LSU, that's okay. But if they can beat Kentucky, if they can beat, we saw them beat Tennessee, if you can beat South Carolina and Vanderbilt, the teams you should win, then I really think that does a lot for Billy Napier. It does a lot for this team. It does a lot for the patience of the fan base, who we know it just isn't particularly patient in general. And it allows this process to fully come to fruition, which is going to be a 3 or 4 year process that we really do need to allow to happen.
Because speed up, it's organic right now.
Yeah.
I used to hate coaches saying one game at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Such a cliche. It's so true. Play the one in front of you right now. Let's talk about the other ones that get here. Because I think if they do that, like we said, they could be 6-1 going into the Georgia game. And I asked Herbert about this. I said, well, I guess they got no shot. He said, they got a shot against Georgia. They got good players. And
nobody in the SEC has looked unbeatable this season. Everybody's winning ugly. There is nobody that I would say this is an automatic loss. I think it's okay if Florida loses to Georgia, because I don't think there's anybody that expects it. I don't think Billy Napier doesn't need that win to get to come back for year 3 or anything like that. But I still think it's possible that they beat Georgia.
Yeah, and I've been around football a long time. I can tell you this. Stuff happens.
Absolutely.
I mean, you just never know. Carlos Dunlap gets arrested on a DUI before the SEC championship game. Doesn't even drink. Went to a birthday party, had something to drink, passed out from the stoplight. He doesn't play against Alabama. Urban String. Think if they win that game, he would have won possibly 3 national championships in 4 years.
Yeah.
That's amazing. It's amazing. So, we had a good conversation with Urban last night. And Shelley, they were there. Really good folks, and he was very well received by a pretty large crowd last night. And I saw an Urban I hadn't seen in a long time. Totally relaxed, he and Shelley both. And somebody said, Urban, would you ever consider coaching again? And Shelley said, I'll answer that. No.
Shelley has always been my favorite.
I love Shelley.
She does not get enough credit for the behind the scenes stuff that she always did for her teams and the coaches and their families. And she, it's really hard to be a coach's wife. And I don't know that there's anybody that has done it better than Shelley and Jerry Spurrier.
Spurrier, right. Yeah, the best.
To have, Mrs. Football coaches that just were absolutely astounding.
First ladies of Gator football. Hey, give us your time check now, because you got twins and all that. We got sweet and sour going, and sour's here. How long can you tell?
A little bit. Don't worry.
All right. Yep. Let's bring him on, Brendan. There he is, Mr. Sour himself, David Moulton. What's up, David?
Good evening, Ellie. Hey, buddy. How are you?
Notice how he speaks to her always first. Always speaks to
her.
He
didn't say hi to me.
He didn't mention you at all.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry about that. Actually, I have the private chat up on my screen. Okay. And Brendan, it covered you. So that's my bad.
It's perfect to cover, because Buddy's looking pretty tonight anyways.
Besides, my grandfather would come down and beat me if I didn't welcome the young lady first.
Well, there you go. It's okay. It's sexist, but it's okay.
No, it's not.
Oh,
It's not. You open. No. You open doors. Okay. You take your hat off. You stand.
You're a fossil. Okay.
Okay. Well, I am old.
No, I didn't say that I didn't like it.
David,
I'm just telling you
don't listen to him, David.
Let's ask Allie. Not your personal opinion, Allie, but generally speaking, today in society, women don't particularly want you doing all that, right?
Oh, I want you to open my door. I
didn't say you.
I totally agree with it. No.
Not you. I said the women in general.
That may be the case. That is not the way that my daughters are being raised, but that might be the case in general.
There you go.
Yeah, it's
Yep.
very good. Very good. Well,
And
I opened
whoever's
my
dog that is, it agrees too.
That's
yeah,
Sammy.
Sammy the Bones.
Sammy,
Yeah,
yeah,
he agrees. Yeah.
What's going on, David?
I have to admit, fired up for this game. This to me is a classic toss-up game. I mean, I don't know how nitty-gritty you guys have gotten into it, but when you compare lines against each other and units, I mean, Allie, I'm sure you have to do the edge Florida, edge Kentucky based on units and what have you. To me, this is really close, and both quarterbacks, the Kentucky wants their quarterback to look a little more like he did in 21 and early 22. Okay, meanwhile, the Gators offense has been steady, but are there some explosive plays there? And is this the week that they maybe need a fourth quarter explosive play to win this game? And does the offense have it in them? And is the head coach willing to take maybe some of the chains off and have that offense produce that play? I mean, I'm fascinated by this game because, I mean, I heard you guys talking. Listen, they can win them all heading to the cocktail party. I mean, they can. They're not going to be easy. We saw last week that this team is still flawed and what have you, but that they have enough in the tank to beat everybody on their schedule till the end of October anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely possible. They're going to have to play good football. They're going to have to try. They're going to have to limit mistakes. They're going to have to, capitalize on mistakes of their opponents, but it is 100% possible. I don't want to say likely because I don't know that I want to jump that gun yet, but there's a good chance that they could be 6-1 going into Georgia, which is awesome and crazy.
Yeah, Shane said the same thing.
I mean, let's just say there are no turnovers and no special teams plays that produce points. Isn't this a field goal game with two good kickers?
Now we have a kicker.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But isn't this a field goal? Doesn't this feel like a field goal game, 23-21, something like that? I mean, if everything is even, this feels like a close game.
Yeah, it does. I think it's a close game as well. Again, as long as there are no massive blunders.
Well, not only that, I'll say this. It feels like a game if it comes down to in needing a field goal or needing completion. I think Florida's got the goods to make that happen.
So far, I mean, the one thing I would like to, they've played now for close to a month with the lead also. That'd be interesting. The last time they were on the road, they fell behind. We saw what happened. Would be curious, 7-point deficit for this Florida offense it doesn't seem like a mountain, but it does seem like a hill. And so, if they get behind on the road this time, a month later, how will they handle it?
Yeah. I mean, this team is not really built to come back from behind, or at the very least, we haven't seen them have to do that. And they don't seem to move particularly fast. So I would love to not have to see them come from behind.
Sure.
But, I'm interested to see what happens in the second half of this game. I think that we've come out really strong at the beginning of all of these games and just kind of petered out by the second half. And whether that's conservative by design or not, I guess it kind of remains to be seen. But I would be interested to see how we are in a very close one because we haven't, even though Charlotte wasn't a blowout by any means, it never felt like we weren't completely in control.
Yeah, on to more important things like this. Number one, I want to talk about, I'll skip that. Let's go to restaurants in Lexington. Someone wants to know, going today, would you travel? You go to Lexington. Come on, David, give it up.
I have to admit, I've never been there before.
Never
Friday
been to Lexington?
Night. No, I said I've never been there before, like dinner on a Friday night.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I lay low. I mean, I've gone to a couple places near Rupp Arena, to be honest with you, but I usually don't go out after the football games.
Oh, you get the burgers and fries. Okay. All right.
Well, I was there for it when the Gators beat Kentucky in 07 with Tebow. We were there, and I think there was Midnight Madness the night before.
There was.
and so we did Midnight Madness, and I ate at a nearby restaurant before then, and then the next day, it was a really good game. It was the week after Kentucky had upset number 1 LSU. It was exciting. Tebow was beginning his Heisman march. So, I mean, buddy, you got to remember, CBS doesn't go to Lexington very often at 3:30. I mean, I think we've been there like 4 or 5 times in 18 years.
True. I know one thing. I've been with the CBS crew in Knoxville when we went out to steaks. I will never forget Vern's steak. He ate that, and I took a picture of it. It was this thick. I mean, he just chowed down. Tennessee took us out to dinner back in those days. That's the way it used to be in the SEC when you travel. The people traveling were taken out to dinner by the other team's SID. It was great.
Yeah. Now the media has a hard time just getting a too deep, flip card.
It's changed.
Okay. Yes, it's true. 15, 20 years ago, things were a little different.
All right. How about the Taylor Swift news? You guys all read it. Come on, give it up, Allie. You read it. It was a big deal for her to appear at the Chiefs game. Is a romance blooming? Kelce, what do you think?
I mean, I read something today, like his jersey sales are up like 400%.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
He's getting Googled more than he ever has before. The Chiefs are like putting out things that are like, Taylor will be at our game on
What's their couple name? What would be the this got to be like the Kelce Swift
Swifty and Kelce.
Something. Yeah, Kelce Swift, sweet and sour, maybe.
No, that's taken.
But I don't know if you saw how they ended up connecting, but like weeks ago, he made her like a bracelet, I guess,
with his number on it.
Something, yes, and tried to like get it passed to her at one of her concerts.
Well, she played in Kansas City. That was the whole point.
He's so cool.
I just think it's hilarious.
He's so now.
I don't think David's digging this. He doesn't think.
No, I'm totally. Oh, are you kidding me?
So might as well try sports.
I'm totally digging it.
Yeah.
So the Kelce's have a tremendous podcast, by the way. It's long. It's over an hour usually, but it's weekly and it's outstanding. And so they recorded it yesterday and it came out today. And so Jason, the older brother, plays host. And he said, Travis, because of you, we've got a lot of new people following us. And so I'm going to ask you some of the questions. And the first one was, what's a field goal? Okay. So, the audience they're playing before now is a little different. Little different.
Anyway, here's what they said, David. Here's what shout out. Kelce said on the podcast, shout out to Taylor for pulling up. That was pretty ballsy. He said, I just thought it was awesome. Everybody in the suite had nothing but great things to say about her, their friends and family. She looked amazing. Everybody was talking about her in great light. And on top of that, the day went perfect for the Chiefs fans. Sounds like a romance to me, Allie.
He had a pickup line. I think his pickup line, it says like, haven't we both played at Arrowhead before? And I'm about to go dominate.
Right. I saw you rock Arrowhead. Why don't you come and watch me rock Arrowhead? That was his pickup line. And then she took him up on it. Apparently, she's going to Jersey Sunday night for Chiefs at Jets at MetLife. So they have to be dating. Okay. If you're, I don't know when they started dating, but if she's showing up for game 2 in Jersey,
on her schedule,
they're dating.
They're dating. They're dating. Yeah.
Our curmudgeon audience says, "Oh, please,
whatever."
Yeah, whatever. That's what's happening, folks. They're the same ones who said, "Prime, get him out of here. He's no good." And look what's happened there. Although he may get
by the way,
again.
Can you believe that Colorado, Oregon outrated Ohio State, Notre Dame?
I cannot.
I mean, this Deion Sanders phenomenon is bigger than I thought. I mean, I thought maybe if it's 42-38 and it's this incredible game, maybe it's possible, but 35-0 at the half, and more people stayed with that game and watched it than Ohio State, Notre Dame. Ohio State's the number one
and
draw.
A great game.
It was a great game too.
Yeah, right.
We saw Urban said last night they're sending him back out to
this week
again this week, even after last week.
Prime
so they're
Network.
sending Fox back out there again. That's the 4th week in a row or
Yep.
fifth, third or fourth week in a row that they've been out there covering because the ratings are so
Through the roof.
crazy ridiculous.
This
And
is
it's
the essence of what journalism, television is about. It's fascination with personalities, something new and different. Even the Kelce Swifty deal, people don't want just X's and O's all
Swifty
the
K.
time. Yeah, right.
Well, like some of the new Chiefs fans, some of the Deion Sanders fans, I think thinks college football was just invented too, though. I was looking on social media and there were things that were like, people are just mad because Deion Sanders has made college football relevant and like different, whatever off base things like that.
Yeah.
I think he's attracting a fan base that isn't actually college football fans at all. They're Deion.
Hard to give it up. Come on.
But it's bringing it. I mean, it's all good, right? Any publicity
Totally.
for the sport, but it's interesting to watch for sure.
You think he ends up in the SEC one day with all the speculation?
Maybe.
You think he ends up in a Florida team?
By the way, Gators lost to Texas A&M in volleyball, just in case you care. Yeah, look, it's eyeballs, David. You're in that business. It's eyeballs. You get people to watch, you better pay attention, right?
It's funny. I see Texas A&M in his future.
Ooh.
Just throwing, and not, anytime, around the corner. I mean, first off, he's not going to leave Colorado where his kids are there. Okay. Sure. But I could see, if Jimbo doesn't, the buyout's still monstrous. Not that they couldn't pay it, but it's monstrous. But it goes down $9.5 million a year.
Yeah.
So let's just say 2025, 2026, we've taken 19 or almost $30 million off this buyout. And it's just not happening. He's just producing 8 and 4 seasons. If you're Texas A&M and it's 2026, what do you think about Deion? I spent 15, 20 years in Dallas Sanders to Texas A&M.
Well, what about Alabama? Think about that. If Nick resigns, think about it. I'm telling you, Paul Feinbaum thinks there's a possibility of that.
I would be interested to see what Deion chooses to do. With the 12-team playoff, there's maybe not anybody with an easier path to at least getting to the playoffs than Colorado will have. And so I do think obviously these coaches are competitive as hell and they want to prove that they can do it at any level, at any school. And so that'll be a huge pull for him. But he's also super business savvy and he's crushing it with endorsements. Do you stay at a place who's going to pay you really well, where everybody fawns all over you and you essentially are going to have a cakewalk into the playoffs every single year? I mean, it's going to be much easier for Colorado than Texas A&M.
That is true. That is true. You could make the case that, listen, stay in the Big 12. It's guaranteed at least one playoff spot, and you could be the favorite every year. It's why I think UCF's got a hell of a chance going forward to, make the playoff in a 10-year span 3-4 times. I mean, who should UCF play second fiddle to in that conference? Not many, year in, year out. If they get their act together at the level that they got to get it to. I mean, what Houston, maybe, so now that SMU's going to the ACC, Deion at Colorado, maybe a Cincinnati. I mean, I don't think there are many teams they should be looking up at.
There's certainly not many teams with the access to recruits like there are in the state of Florida.
Yep.
Yeah. Couldn't you see him at a California school, like one of these? Going to Oregon one day or something.
He even gave an interview. He said, I'm a Southern guy. He goes, I never imagined myself in Colorado. So, no, I don't. I think if he leaves, it'll be east of the Mississippi.
Yeah, it would have been Florida State.
Technically, A&M's not, but you know what I mean.
Norvell still, if he hadn't been doing so good, it'd be Florida State. But hey, guys, let me do this spot real quick. Brendan, we have another one to do on Melvin. I'm going to give you the. You want to do Melvin now, Brendan?
No, do which one are you going to do?
I can do
Red Star and Melvin.
I'll do Red Star real quick, and we'll do Melvin at the end.
Do it.
Red Star Medical Research, with a proven reputation as a high-quality, patient-centered clinical research facility. Red Star Medical Research brings cutting-edge clinical research trials to Ocala in areas like Alzheimer's, psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, and fibromyalgia, along with other things that affect our community. Since their inception in 1998, Red Star has done more than 700 clinical research trials, continues to partner with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies, throughout the medical industry. If you'd like to qualify for these, you can go to their website at renstar.net, find out how you can be involved. In some cases, compensation for time and travel. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. All right. So what we got here now?
Well,
we're pretty.
No, I was going to talk to David about.
Okay.
What do you think? I was off for a second there, but you convinced me after the Salt Lake. You were the voice of reason after the Salt Lake game in a lot of ways to me. So I had my David Moulton sort of glasses on with this whole thing after Saturday. 5 field goals, looking at a lot of positive things. And I made a comment earlier about peaking too early in college football. And I thought, well, maybe David will really appreciate this comment, as I feel like I've learned from him. But I feel like Florida might be peaking, sort of slowly and at the right time. And I don't think there's a whole lot to worry about after Saturday, because there was a lot of good, but I think there's a lot of little things. And they had 3 young offensive linemen in there, which I think affects you in the red zone. But I just was curious, are you nervous after Saturday for Gator fan?
No, I think it's a perfect game in many ways. They were in control, as Ali said, and yet at the same time, the coaching staff has an awful lot that they can show on tape and say, hey, listen, this is where we got to get better. So in many ways, Brendan, I think it's a perfect game for Napier and his staff. They are going to have to get a little more dynamic, though. I mean, they just are. Kentucky is a team that's every bit as good as them. It could come down to one play, so they have to make it somewhere. And, South Carolina's got a quarterback. That's an NFL quarterback. Not saying he's a franchise quarterback, but that guy is going to play.
Playing great, right?
Okay. And so, you're probably going to have to score a few points against them. And in theory, tough to win a slugfest against Georgia. You got to, if you look at who has beaten Georgia in the last 5-6 years, it's usually dynamic quarterback play. So I do think that this offense has got to find some plays, and to me, this is a one-play game. I'm not sure what side of the ball it's on. I have a feeling it might be the Gators secondary that actually makes the play. Okay. I really do. I love what they're doing defensively. They're so much better coached this year. My goodness, it's embarrassing.
The pressure.
It's embarrassing how much better coached they are this year.
Shane says they're also better at every position on defense. Every one. He says all 11, they're all better.
They are, but they scheme so much better too.
Yeah,
they did make a major talent upgrade really across the board. But Austin Armstrong has been game. I have all of these position changes, but you have Patrick Toney, and we don't see the success that we're having this year. Like Austin Armstrong is coaching them up.
Well, Ali, I mean, outside of was that the first play bomb against Utah? I mean, honestly, have you seen a blatant blown assignment from the defense? And they had that one double covered and just screwed it up. I mean, where we saw the last few years, I mean, guys were open. Open, like could order a cup of coffee and catch the ball.
The crazy thing is they are so good. They are so improved, but you can see how and where they will get even that much better. I think they're going to get faster up front even than they are now. I think that we are going to see more turnovers down the road. That's something that, is really important. But the fundamentals of this team in such a short period of time have improved so much. It's honestly remarkable.
Good time maybe to pick the game, Brendan. Or do you think people are asking what our picks are? So who wants to go first?
Well, but you and I won't pick probably till tomorrow. We have another 2 shows, but I'll throw it out there. But let's start with Allie's first, right? I mean, we're doing this whole ladies first thing. I guess if I don't get in line, then I'm the jerk, right? So Allie, ladies first. What would you say on Saturday?
24-14. I'm going to go with 24-14.
What's the major difference, do you feel?
I think that Florida's defense, so they allowed 16 against Tennessee. Obviously they allowed a little bit more against Utah, but that's the rest of the season. 16 points or under. When you do that, you are going to be in every single game that you play. I think Florida has found a kicker, and that's awesome. I mean, previous to Charlotte, we weren't even 100% sure we were going to make every extra point because we didn't, so I think that gives us a little boost of confidence. I think we have Wilson back. That's a huge boost of confidence. Our offensive line, being at full strength, having Kingsley back is huge. And that is a large part of why Florida didn't play well against Charlotte. So, I think all of those things are really big, but I think Austin Armstrong is just so good at adjusting. You'll see Florida might get burned at the very beginning, but he makes adjustments as the game goes on. So they're not making the same mistake twice, even if they are making that initial mistake. And I think that's the difference. Mr.
Moulton, what do you think?
20-17. I do think this game comes down to one play and a kick. I really do. This is a very even game if all the things are even. Turnovers, special teams, and what have you. Neither team really has a dynamic receiver. They each have one that they really like. The Florida quarterback's been a little steadier than the Kentucky quarterback, but the Kentucky quarterback's best day has been better than Florida's best day. Running backs, I like the Gators backfield a little bit more. Okay. Can they go on the road and win an SEC game against a solid team? That's the next step for this team. Yeah. Got Kentucky, South Carolina. All right. They play them 10 times. It's probably going to go 5-5, 6-4. But, make Saturday your time. Win it and then take this season to the next gear.
Buddy, what do you think?
I like it. Alec, I like what you said about the guys who went out, Wilson. I got a feeling I'm hearing that he might not play at all. Or may not play very much. And, of course, we know what happens at center. Very key thing. I'm tempted, though, like you, to pick it by more than the thread. Because I'm thinking that, like David, you said, defensive back. Devin Leary's very accurate guy, quarterback. I think these defensive backs are primed and ready, and they can bring pressure on him he hasn't seen before. I'm gonna go Gators 28, Kentucky 17.
Okay.
17.
Right. Wow.
Well, that's interesting. And
Florida scores 28 points. It's going to be a nice plane ride home. Let me tell you.
Mm-hmm. Book it. Go ahead and book it.
Book
Vegas.
it.
Call Vegas. I'm telling you. Don't come crying to me if you didn't bet it. Okay, that's all.
Buddy Martin, lock.
All right,
but you put all your money. Look, I think this is the tale of two teams. One is on the road. I think, like everyone said, can this team win on the road? Can this coaching staff coach on the road? What's the noon game going to be like? Billy talks about liking the noon game, but that's a very different time. You played a bunch of night games, so you're on the road. It's during the day. I think it's all about having the offensive line play effectively. I mean, obviously, we talk about it every week. If you establish the running game, hold the ball a little bit, have some time of possession, keep your defense off the field. That makes a difference. I think Austin Armstrong is the difference maker. A lot of people maybe don't talk about this, especially last game. One bad possession, really.
Sure.
So I think really in the end, I'm pushing a closer game, 17 Florida, and I think it will be by a field goal. I think it's going to be 17-14. I don't know if that's what you picked, David.
So four Gator homers now. We finally got David Moulton one over.
I actually think field goals are going to make.
Are saying Florida's going to beat Kentucky. By the way, they're underdogs, just so you know.
I think we'll see some field goal kicking, and I think so it'll be a squeaky win, but I think it's one of those scrappy good wins.
Smackdown alert.
This is where opening at Utah should pay dividends. This atmosphere at noon in Lexington is not going to be as rough as it was, and they're healthier at the line of scrimmage than they were that day. This is where that experience, even though it's just a month later, really should help them.
Tired of night games. Let's go noon. I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm ready. How about it, Allie?
Hey, listen, I if you're going to play on the road, you want to play at noon as opposed to 7 o'clock at night, for sure, especially in Kentucky where they will start drinking bourbon at 6 a.m. So
Yeah.
We got Allie's got a curfew here. She turns to a pumpkin at 10 o'clock. So we got.
Well, all right, fair enough. We want to say thanks to everybody. Thanks for coming on. And we always ask Allie one more time where people can find you on YouTube.
A peek inside Gator football.
All right, Allie Peakwiller. Good job as usual. We'll see you next week. Listen to our podcast all week. It's great. Mr. Moulton, thank you very much for coming on the show tonight. Tell folks where they can pick you up Monday through Friday.
Gainesville yet? Gainesville?
No. And it's been 2 weeks since we had our big meeting.
Man.
I'm waiting.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm waiting. I came out of the meeting feeling really good about being on in Gainesville.
I know you did.
I thought we were going to be on as of this coming Monday, but
okay, we got to send our people. We got to send our people up there to take care of that. Okay?
But FloridaSportsNetwork.com. You can download all the podcasts, and we have 3 guests every show, and the guest list is pretty good if we do say so ourselves.
David's the best. David Moulton with us. Pleasure to have you on, my friend. And we'll have a great trip this weekend. All right. Where are you going?
We'll do.
Yeah, where are you going?
To the plains of Auburn, Georgia, and the Tigers. And then Monday Night Football, Seattle, and the Giants. So
he's a man who travels big. Have a good, safe trip, David. Thank you.
We'll do. See you next week.
Thanks, David. The great David Moulton. Well, buddy, good show as well tonight. You seem to brought your A game, lots of energy. Want to tell folks out there, make sure you smash the subscribe button out there, because we noticed a lot of you don't.
And read Gatorbait, by the way.
And read Gatorbait. And we are still running our special until the Gators lose now at this point for GatorbaitMedia.com. Go right now. Subscribe right now. Click on the link that comes in the chat. That's subscribe to the YouTube channel, but you can do that at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. But go to Gatorbait, there it is, media.com. Click on this, either do the QR code on the screen or you get it right there in the link. And all access annual membership is still running.
Can we thank the people who signed up this week? We had a fantastic week, Brendan.
Yes, we have. All the people, and we are family run and operated, and real journalists for real Gators. And I'm this close to a store with T-shirts and everything. So those are those people that are interested.
I saw something in there.
Yeah, we'll have maybe a black on black T-shirt and hat combo for the November 4th game, buddy. You have anything good to say?
Melvin Law. We got to talk. We got Melvin Law to do.
Well, we can either do it or you can talk about it, whatever you want to do.
Just go ahead and do the spot we cut. If he's got it there, it'd be great. And
all right. Well, I'm going to say goodbye to you then, because we'll run Melvin Law, and then I'll come back and say goodbye to everybody.
Okay.
Thank you, buddy. Have a good night, buddy.
Great
Martin. Yep. Here we go. We'll talk about Melvin Law, those of you. And, just to keep you on the back end, I've got a little bit. We'll go long tonight, and I'll play it of what we heard from Urban Meyer and Brandon Spikes. I'll play a little bit for you on the back end. So watch Melvin Law come back, and then we'll hear from Urban Meyer, and then we'll say goodnight.
Melvin, Jeffrey, you do a show where you ask a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms, that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV. But after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Melvin Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Melvin. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Melvin, and that's good to know, because a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff, like me. And maybe you can coach us through. So, Melvin Law, they won't back down. They will take your questions about your case if you have a question.
Yes, whether it's a new case or an existing case, give us a call. We'd be glad to go over it with you. There's no no charge to review your case with you. And a lot of times it makes good sense just to get a second opinion.
Good stuff from Melvin Law. They don't back down, but they will give you a second opinion.
There you go. Heard from Jeffrey Meldon there. Thank you very much for your sponsorship. Continued report. Check out Meldon Law. Last night, we had the pleasure of being invited by Urban Meyer and the quarterback club, Gainesville Quarterback Club. And they do a really fine job. It is the oldest booster club in Gainesville. They invited us up. They had Urban Meyer and Brandon Spikes with Dooley was doing the hosting, and Urban had a great idea. It says, let's just open this thing up and have a Q&A and talk a little bit and have a panel. So it turned out to be a really awesome opportunity. It went on for about an hour, so obviously I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I have a bite maybe I'll throw in there and watch this. It's very revealing, different, relaxed Urban Meyer talking about Swamp Kings and some stories, and really a great night up there if you're in Gainesville area and you're looking for a great booster to be a part of. These guys are the best. Thanks to them. Buddy will be speaking there in a couple of weeks. So here's Urban Meyer from last night. I did the best on the audio, but you all have a great night. Thanks for watching the show, and we will see you tomorrow night.
So I wanted to hit a couple of
Usually it's me interrupting you.
So in 2008, we were down at Miami to play Oklahoma for the national championship. And Tebow versus Bradford, we win the game. And we come in the locker room afterwards and everybody's going nuts and all that. Steve McClain comes up to me and says, hey, President Obama's gonna call here in a minute. I said, great. So he comes up and I turn off the music and I put him on my speakerphone, and congratulations, Gators. And look forward to having you visit the White House and all that. And it was great. Thank you, Mr. President. We can't wait to see you. Boom. So I go back in my little cubbyhole locker room and I just sit down for a minute. And all of a sudden, I look down, my phone rings, and it's Fred Ridley. Anybody know who Fred Ridley is? He's a two-time All-American golfer here in Florida. He also happens to be chairman of Augusta National. At the time, he was a rules committee and a friend of mine. And I could tell he was knee-deep in some cocktails. Screaming in the phone. And he said, Coach, congratulations. And I heard everybody yelling all that. I said, thanks, Fred. And all that. He said, I got great news for you. You're coming as my guest to Augusta National. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to Augusta National. So right then, Steve McClain walks in and said, Coach, it's time to go to the press conference. We have to go through this. The room like this, about 500 media people, whatever. And we're talking about the game, and someone right over there says, hey, Coach, tell us about that incredible phone call you just got. And I said, Fred Ridley called me, I'm going to all confused on there. I was like, it's Augusta National. And they're like, Coach, didn't the President of the United States just call you? I go, oh yeah. But I am going to Augusta National.
All right, we'll get some phone calls, and by the way,